It's hard to believe, but it was still January when Donald Trump fired the inspector generals, 18 different government agencies. He fired the inspectors general illegally because, among other things, you're not allowed to fire an IG without giving Congress 30 days notice before you do it. One of those inspectors general was this woman. Her name is Phyllis Fong. When Phyllis Fong learned that she had been fired along with all the other inspectors general, she, like everyone, I think, recognized that the announcement of her firing was illegal on its face. And if an announcement is illegal, you might reasonably conclude that it's therefore non-binding. Therefore, the day after Donald Trump announced that she and 17 other inspectors general were fired, Phyllis Fong nevertheless showed up for work. She showed up for work the next day, just like she had done for the past 2 decades.
Okay. As you all know, Donald Trump has never exactly been shy about his contempt for the idea that we have 3 co-equal branches of government, something you learn when you're in elementary school. But in his view, all power should ultimately rest with the person sitting behind the resolute desk. And especially if that person is him, of course. We got a glimpse of his thinking during his first administration when he claimed that Article 2 of the Constitution gives him, quote, the right to do whatever he wants as president. It does not grant that. And during the 2024 campaign, he surrounded himself with people who advocated for some pretty extreme views of presidential power. Chief among them was the guy now serving as his vice president, J.D. Vance, who floated this piece of advice back in 2021.
I think that what Trump should do, like if I was giving him one piece of advice, fire every single mid-level bureaucrat, every civil servant in the administrative state, replace them with our people. And when the courts, because you will get taken to court, and then when the courts stop you, stand before the country like Andrew Jackson did and say the Chief Justice has made his ruling, now let him enforce it.
You can spot the pattern here. A few days ago, Donald Trump appointed a new spokesperson for the Defense Department. His name is Sean Parnell. If that name sounds at all familiar, it's because the last thing he did in politics was fail in his effort to win a U.S. Senate seat from Pennsylvania. Mr. Parnell dropped out of the Republican primary after a judge took away custody of his children and ruled that Mr. Parnell had been violent and abusive toward the children and his wife. His wife had accused him, among other things, of throwing chairs at her, of dropping her off on an interstate on the side of the road when she was 6 months pregnant and telling her to get an abortion. She accused him of choking and strangling her. He denies the allegations, but that all came out during the campaign. And after the judge's ruling in that case, Mr. Parnell dropped out of the Republican primary, and he thus failed to win that U.S. Senate seat in Pennsylvania. That is the last thing that Sean Parnell did in public life. That's the last thing he did in politics. Now Donald Trump has named him spokesman for the Pentagon. Person who won that Republican primary for that Senate seat in Pennsylvania and then lost the Senate race in the general election, that was Mehmet Oz, Dr. Oz. Trump has now named him to run Medicare and Medicaid. So that was the Pennsylvania Senate seat. In the Georgia Senate races, there were 4 different Republicans who lost while trying to get Senate seats from Georgia in 2020 and 2022, who have all now been named to things in the Trump administration. Kelly Loeffler lost a Georgia Senate race in 2020. Trump named her to head the Small Business Administration. David Perdue lost a Georgia Senate race in 2020. Trump named him to be ambassador to China. Doug Collins lost in the primary for Georgia Senate in 2020. Trump named him to run the VA. Herschel Walker lost a Georgia Senate race in 2022. Trump named him to be ambassador to the Bahamas. Carrie Lake lost her run for Arizona governor in 2022, and then she lost her run for Arizona senator in 2024. Trump just named her to run the Voice of America. Lori Chavez DeRemer lost her House seat in 2024 in Oregon. Trump named her to run the U.S. Labor Department. Brandon Williams lost his House seat in 2024 in New York. Trump named him to run the National Nuclear Security Administration. God help us all. Lee Zeldin lost his race for New York governor. Trump named him to run the EPA. Caroline Leavitt lost her campaign for a congressional seat in New Hampshire. Trump named her White House press secretary. The only thing wrestling executive Linda McMahon ever did in politics was lose 2 consecutive U.S. Senate races in Connecticut. Trump named her Secretary of Education. The last thing Tulsi Gabbard ever did in politics was disastrously lose a presidential run in 2020. Trump has named her Director of National Intelligence, which is like a horse walks into a bar joke without a horse or a bar. The only thing Robert F. Kennedy Jr. ever did in politics was run and then quit a presidential campaign this year. Now he's Trump's nominee to lead Health and Human Services. Who is Harmeet Dillon? Harmeet Dillon lost a race for Republican Party chair this year. Then Trump named her to lead the Justice Department's Civil Rights Division. Sam Brown lost a Nevada Senate race this year. Trump has put him at the VA. Dave Weldon lost a race for state legislator in Florida. Trump has now named him to lead the CDC. Dan Bishop lost the Attorney General's race in North Carolina this past year. Trump has made him the number 2 official at OMB. Bo Hines just lost a congressional race in North Carolina, so Trump put him on his new crypto board. Joe Kent has lost 2 consecutive races for Congress in Washington state. Trump just named him head of the National Counterterrorism Center. You noticing a theme here? I mean, I could go on, but are you noticing a theme? I mean, people keep saying no one elected Elon Musk, and that is definitely true. But, you know, at least in his case, he didn't try. He didn't run for something and have the people resoundingly say, no, we don't want you. We'd prefer someone else and not you. And so you will lose this race. But in this second term, they really are stuffing the whole administration with people who have not just once upon a time lost an election here or there. All politicians at some point usually lose something. No, this is like the last thing you did was lose a thing. They almost seem to be going out of their way to find people for whom the last thing they did in politics, the last thing they did in public life was ask the public to approve of them. And the public said, no, we do not want you. It's almost as if they are going out of their way to say, oh, you, the people, are saying no. We say that doesn't matter because you may not want us. You may not want this. You may not want us. But this is who and what you're getting, and you're stuck with it. Doris Kearns Goodwin wrote her famous, brilliant book about Abraham Lincoln building his, brave, capable government out of a team of rivals. With Trump, it's like a big team of losers, people who the American people explicitly do not want. People who just had the opportunity to be voted into office by the American people, and the American people said definitively, no, don't want you. And so Trump is saying, well, that's who you're getting, and you'll like it. Amid everything, did you notice the little announcement that the Trump administration has ordered a halt to all federal funding for electric vehicle chargers across the United States? EV charging stations? You might think that would be a problem for Trump's billionaire co-president, his largest campaign donor, Elon Musk, who runs the electric car company Tesla. But you know what? There's a reason he's not complaining, quite the contrary. And it's because Elon Musk's company, Tesla, already has the biggest private charging network in the country, bigger than all of his competitors. So as he posted on his social media site last year, quote, take away the subsidies. It will only help Tesla. Well, now Donald Trump has done just that, leaving Tesla unchallenged as the largest EV charging network in the country, with no one really having any chance to catch up to them. Then there's one of Musk's other companies, SpaceX, a huge government contractor. Back in December, the New York Times reported that the Defense Department's Inspector General had opened a review into SpaceX for potentially violating rules about keeping sensitive government secrets out of the hands of our foreign adversaries. Elon Musk's own foreign travel and his contacts with foreign governments had reportedly not been disclosed regularly to the U.S. government, which not only impeded his own security clearance, but also reportedly led, in part at least, to this Inspector General's security review of potential national security risks surrounding his companies and specifically him. Well, when Donald Trump took office, he fired that Inspector General conducting that review, along with 17 other inspectors general across the government. Then there's Elon Musk's social media company, formerly known as Twitter. When Elon Musk took over that company, one of his goals was to turn it into a digital payment company. He wanted everybody to start using Twitter the way they used Zelle or Venmo to send money electronically. Starting this year, he announced a big new plan to do that. But, you know, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the government regulator that makes sure credit card companies and banks can't charge you junk fees or unnecessarily hike up your interest rates and screw you over that way. The CFPB also regulates the kinds of digital money transfers that Elon Musk now wants to do at Twitter. And as Lever News points out today, the CFPB has just been finalizing new rules for that kind of payment system. When over the weekend, they got shut down. Musk and the Trump administration shut the CFPB down entirely. So if you voted for Trump because you thought banks and credit card companies are the good guys, and they need more opportunities to screw people over on small print scams and junk fees and ballooning credit card interest rates and all the rest. Well, if so, today must feel great. Must feel like you got a lot for your vote. The pushback against Trump's efforts to defund the police, to defund the financial police, has begun in earnest. Lawsuits have been filed already challenging Trump's shutdown of the CFPB. Today in Washington, protesters and lawmakers, look at this, turned out again in the street, rallied in support of CFPB and its workers outside of its headquarters. This was today in Washington, people showing up in person and Democratic lawmakers showing up there to support them.